Hey, it's Tom here and welcome back to the channel. So this coming weekend we have the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting coming up for 2021. Now this is by far and away one of my personal highlights of the investment year. Basically each and every year both Warren Buffett and typically Charlie Munger as well sit down and basically the audience just asks them questions for about 4 or 5 hours straight. It's one of the few times each year that the general public sort of get access to Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, and these meetings are always filled with a whole bunch of investment wisdom. So in this video I want to give you a bit of a preview to that meeting. I covered the highlights of the meeting in 2020 last year, and there's a few kind of key things that I'm excited to see which will be a little bit different for 2021. Now before we get into that, we do have a sponsor for today's video, and today's video sponsor is Hatch. Now Hatch have been a long time partner of the channel and they are my personal broker of choice for me as a New Zealander doing all of my US investing. Now I basically switched across to Hatch from one of the larger banks a couple of years ago, essentially just due to fees. I was paying $90 US a trade at one of the big banks for trades that I can now do for $3 US in Hatch. So it's been a significant saver on fees, which can really put a damper on your overall returns, particularly if you're investing smaller amounts of money. And Hatch have continued to improve the platform right throughout the 2 years that I have personally been a customer. And one of the big improvements that they've done recently is adding kids accounts. So if you're wanting to get an investment account set up for your children and get compound interest working on their side very, very early, you're now able to do that with Hatch with even lower fees than you have in a typical brokerage account. So with all that said, if you're interested in getting set up with Hatch, you will need to go to the link hatch.as/investingwithtom. If you go to that link, create a new Hatch account and deposit 100 New Zealand dollars into that account, you'll get a free $20 top up so that you can get started investing with a little bit more money. Okay, so the Berkshire Hathaway meeting for 2021 is going to be a little bit different to usual, and even in 2020 it was a little bit different to usual. So typically with these Berkshire Hathaway annual meetings, they are held in a big convention center in Warren Buffett's hometown of Omaha, and typically they have enormous crowds. It's kind of just got bigger and bigger and bigger over the years and over the decades even at this point. And if you want to go back and watch any of the previous annual meetings, there's replays right back to around 1994. It's a fantastic resource to learn about all things sort of Warren Buffett style value investing. So I'd highly recommend checking those out if you haven't already. But for this year, the meeting is actually not going to be held in Omaha. It's actually going to be held in Los Angeles. And this, to my knowledge, is the first time that that has ever happened. And basically the main reason for that is to get Charlie Munger involved with the annual meeting. So last year in 2020, the annual meeting was still held in Omaha. It was actually still at the convention center. But at that stage, we were kind of right in the midst of the pandemic, and everything was pretty crazy at that time. So the convention center was literally filled with Warren Buffett and also Greg Abel, who I'll talk about a bit more in this video, sitting up on stage, and there was basically no crowd. It was kind of just the Yahoo Finance team that were doing the live stream for the meeting. We're about the only people that was there. So it was a very sort of eerie, strange meeting. And Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner of several years at Berkshire Hathaway, actually made the decision not to go to the meeting. The health risk at the time was just too great. And I believe Charlie Munger at that time was like 96 years old. So just too big a risk to warrant traveling. But this year, Charlie Munger will be involved. So the meeting is going to be in LA, which is where Charlie Munger is based. Warren Buffett's going to fly out to LA. And he's also actually going to have a couple more people on the stage. So typically it is just Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Last year we had Greg Abel in place of Charlie Munger. Greg Abel is a really core part of the management of many of the subsidiaries at Berkshire. His official title is the Vice Chairman of Non-Insurance Operations, which encompasses a huge range of businesses. So you'll have him up there with Warren and Charlie. And you'll actually also have Ajit Jain, who is a long-time member at Berkshire Hathaway as well, and he is the chairman of insurance operations, and he's a guy that has gotten a massive amount of praise from Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger over the years. And the meeting itself will be streamed on Yahoo Finance. I think for me in New Zealand, it's going to be something like 5:30 in the morning on Sunday morning, so I'll be up bright and early and sort of sacrificing my weekend sleep in order to watch that meeting, but it's a sacrifice well worth making. So in terms of the things that I'm going to be looking for at this year's annual meeting, there's kind of a handful of topics that I would love to see Warren Buffett cover. I guess Basically, the way that this typically works is the Yahoo Finance team or some journalists will generally put questions to Warren and Charlie, and these are questions that have typically been sent in from shareholders all around the world. I guess generally at the meetings they also have sort of microphones floating around the convention center, but of course with all the restrictions that is probably going to be still limited again this year. So a couple of core things I'm looking for. I think one of the big questions that we really want to hear some more commentary on from Warren Buffett is actually around share buybacks. So just earlier in 2021, we actually got the news that Berkshire Hathaway had spent around $25 billion on buying back shares at Berkshire Hathaway. If you compare that to some of the biggest acquisitions that Berkshire has ever made, let's say Precision Cast Parts as an example, that was around a $37 billion acquisition, and that's the biggest acquisition Berkshire's ever made. So to be spending $25 billion on share buybacks is very, very significant, and it was a pretty clear signal that in the eyes of Warren Buffett at least, Berkshire earlier in 2021 and perhaps late in 2020 was pretty significantly undervalued, and it was really a strong use of capital at that point in order to generate a good return for shareholders. And for the longest time, Warren Buffett has made it very, very clear that he will not buy back shares in Berkshire Hathaway, and he's not really supportive of buybacks done by any company unless they're buying shares back below intrinsic value. So I don't expect Buffett to give away, you know, what exactly he thinks the intrinsic value of Berkshire is and how much he expects to spend on buybacks and all that sort of stuff. I don't expect him to give that level of detail, but I do expect that that will be one of the very first questions that probably gets put to Buffett. And I'm really interested to see what he gives away, if anything. Now, of course, one of the other big things that I'm looking forward to this year is actually getting some questions put to people that aren't Warren and Charlie. Now, of course, succession and sort of what happens after Warren and Charlie are no longer at the helm of Berkshire has been a question for years and years and years. I remember watching some of the very old interviews or the old Berkshire Hathaway meetings, and even reading some of the very old letters. And, you know, Warren Buffett was talking about succession or getting asked about succession and, you know, what happens if he dies tonight kind of thing. Right back when he was 50, and now he's more like 90 years old. So the succession planning has been going on for some time, and they've certainly, of course, got a plan in place. This is a huge business, and they would be rather foolish not to. But I think the prime candidates to take over some of the big management roles at Berkshire Hathaway are Greg Abel and Ajit Jain, and that's the reason why these guys are sitting up on stage. We're going to have Greg Abel, who runs a lot of Berkshire Hathaway's energy operations and is, of course, involved with many of their subsidiaries, being the vice chairman of non-insurance operations, which encompasses a whole range of businesses. And we're also going to have Ajit Jain, who has the odd interview you can find online with Warren Buffett. For example, he did a trip to India a few years back where there's you know, questions put to both Ajit Jain and Warren Buffett. So we've heard bits and pieces from both of these guys over the years, but it's going to be really interesting to see what types of questions get put to Greg and Ajit. Both of those managers have been at Berkshire for a long period of time. They're both about equally as well paid. They're by far and away the highest paid members at Berkshire, far more well paid than Warren and Charlie. And yeah, I kind of want to get a good feel for who those people are and what we can expect to see after Warren and Charlie are no longer at the helm. A couple of other things I'm going to be interested to hear some commentary on from Warren and Charlie is a little bit about sort of capital allocation in general. So Warren Buffett has made some kind of not super out of the ordinary, but certainly a change from what he's done in the past in terms of some things he's done around allocating capital. So of course we have the big share buybacks that have been done. We also have some pretty interesting things that I don't think have probably got as much press as they perhaps deserve. So, you know, capital allocation is not just, you know, picking the best stocks to invest in and so on. It's also reinvesting within the existing businesses at Berkshire, and they've done a lot of that at Berkshire Hathaway Energy, which Warren wrote about in this year's annual letter. And they've also done some interesting things around actually taking on some debt. So that again is something that I don't think gets enough press as it probably deserves. You know, Berkshire have done things like issuing bonds in Japan at very, very low interest rates. They've issued bonds in Europe at literally a 0% interest rate. So while interest rates are very, very low, they're actually issuing debt and trying to get some more capital into the business to use for investments. And they've also made some quite interesting investments with that capital. So for example, after issuing that debt in Japan and receiving Japanese yen, they actually went out and bought fairly significant stakes in each of the large Japanese trading companies, which are large, diverse businesses that trade obviously in Japan. They've also gone out and made basket bets in industries. So rather than putting significant portions of money to work in individual companies like they did with an Apple or a Coca-Cola or something like that, they've made some of these sort of industry basket bets. The Japan businesses are an example of that. The airline businesses a couple of years ago were an example of that, where he didn't just buy one airline, he actually bought a whole basket of sort of all of them. And unfortunately, that wasn't a particularly successful investment after the pandemic came through. But he's also done something similar with pharmaceuticals. He's made basket bets on some of the pharmaceutical companies in the US as well. So I would be really interested to get some sort of info around how Warren Buffett thinks about sort of assessing some of those more industry-wide opportunities that he's made bets into. And of course, the last thing that I am certain will come out of this annual meeting is just general gold nuggets from the Q&A. Of course, you know, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are some of the most quotable people that I've ever come across in any field, not just investing. So I expect obviously some nuggets of wisdom as we usually get from these annual meetings. And it will be interesting just to get a gauge on what sort of questions other shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway are actually asking. So that's a bit of a preview to the Berkshire annual meeting. Again, it's one of the highlights for the investment year for me in particular, and I'm sure many of you watching. So I'll be up early Sunday morning here in New Zealand to check it out with a coffee in hand and you know, taking several notes in order to give you an update video on some of my highlights from the meeting once it is complete. So that's it for me today. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit like and hit subscribe. If you're interested in the Hatch offer, you will need to head to the link here, hatch.as/investingwithtom. That's it for me, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.